going on, everybody? It's YGO, and welcome back to another episode of Sleeper Sunday. So, Sleeper Sunday, for those of you that don't know, is a series I came up with showcasing fun hidden decks you may not know about that can deal quite a bit of damage in the proper hands. We're going to be going over a basic deck list, strengths, weaknesses, what can be done to make the deck better, and of course, a few replays to see the deck in action. And in today's episode, we're going to be taking a look at Ojama. Ojama is an iconic archetype of light beast monsters used by Chazz in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime, and they debuted all the way back in Dark Crisis in 2003, with their most recent support being out of Blazing Vortex at the same time as the Armed Dragon Thunder retrains. They have a beatdown and lockdown playstyle with a fusion-based extra deck revolving around shutting down the opponent's main monster zones, followed by beefing up their boss monster Ojama King to push for game. However, this isn't the only playstyle the archetype has. See, because Chazz was known to have used many different archetypes, with Ojama just being the recurring one at that point, a lot of fun crossovers were adapted. This allowed for Ojama to be mixed into two other archetypes that Chazz played via linking support cards. Armed Dragon is an archetype of mostly wind attribute dragons, used by fan-favorite character Chazz Princeton in the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime. They were released into the physical game in Soul of the Duelist all the way back in 2004, but with a more modern retrain of the archetype coming in Blazing Vortex in early 2021, and the most recent support being a promo in Hidden Arsenal Chapter 1 just a few months ago. It revolves around the LV or level mechanic that hasn't seen genuine support in over a decade, and is a product of the time of the game. The point was to have different triggers such as destroying a monster by battle, or even simply just waiting until the standby phase, allowing you to tag out the smaller level monsters for the much stronger, larger ones over the course of the duel. The modern support cheeses the mechanic a bit by allowing you to do it much faster, while also triggering pieces of advantage while doing so as you climb into your boss monsters. Until the Ojama support cards, Armed Dragons were actually only a series, whereas the naming and the support was the first to make them actually an official archetype. This wasn't the only thing given support by Ojama either, because as you can see, the A to Z monsters are a series of light machine monsters used by both Seto Kaiba and Chazz Princeton in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters and Yu-Gi-Oh! GX anime respectively, and they debuted in Advent of Union in the OCG back in July of 2002 before the set was split into Magician's Force in other languages. They introduced the Union mechanic, which revolves around detaching and attaching monsters to other monsters, something that is quite common in modern Yu-Gi-Oh!, just typically without the Union name attached anymore, pun not intended. The more modern retrain is the ABC series of cards, which is quite popular and has seen meta success even to this day. They too are linked to the Ojama archetype via support cards, and because of this to Armed Dragon, which lays up to one of the funniest amalgamations of a boss monster you've ever seen in your entire life, but we'll get to that in just a little bit. So before we get into discussing this list, I do want to give a huge shout out to our friend Sperato. You may have heard of him or seen his channel or even his Twitter account. He is a pretty prominent Yu-Gi tuber. He's, bigger than I am at least. And he's really known for playing Armed Dragon as a sort of pet deck on his channel, both in the TCG and in Master Duel. So I actually reached out to him in order to try and get Armed Dragon onto Sleeper Sunday, and we had arranged something a little bit, but he then came to me saying, yeah, so Armed Dragon Link isn't very great in the TCG right now, so how would you like to do Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon Turbo? I looked at him dead in the eye through the DMs, and I was like, Sperato, you are a mad motherfucker, and I would be honored to do Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon Turbo for Sleeper Sunday, so here we are. So yeah, this list and all the replays you'll be seeing were all graciously provided by our friend of the channel, Sperato, so you should totally go check him out. I will link him down in the description to see more awesome Armed Dragon content. I believe he actually has a list for this exact list up today as I'm recording the Sleeper Sunday. I'm recording it a day in advance, so yeah, be sure to check him out. That would be awesome and would mean a lot. But yeah, onto the list. So starting off with the Ojamas, we have 3 Ojama Blue, which is kind of the entire, focal point of the deck. This card is what allows you to access your entire combo. All it says is when it's destroyed by battle and sent to grave, you can add 2 Ojama cards from your deck to your hand. Keep in mind, this is not a once per turn, and so they have a few ways to get it out on board, and that's basically going to allow you to punch into your opponent's monster, take a little bit of damage, use the Ojama Blue, grab things from deck, get another Ojama Blue on board, punch, take some damage, grab 2 more things, get another Ojama Blue on board. Basically, you're going to be looping Ojama Blue like anywhere from 2 to 4 times from what I've seen, getting access to all of your important Ojama cards that'll allow you to mend with the other archetypes. We also have the 1 Ojama Red, who says when he's normal summoned, you can special up to 4 Ojamas from your hand in attack position. So it's not only good for just generic swarming in general, but it's also amazing for accessing things like Appaloosa really early so you actually can't get into Beerud. That is one of the only hand traps this archetype can play around, because you're going to do all of your main summoning during the battle phase first, and then you're going to go into your main phase, and remember, your opponent cannot do anything in your main phase until you do something. So if you just immediately go into an Appaloosa after summoning 4 monsters during the battle phase, then you can easily have nib protection right there. And then of course we had 2 of each of the original Ojamas. These abominations should never have been printed, but here they are. Look at them. Ojama green, yellow, and black. Unfortunately, no lime. But let's say for the Ojama monsters, very simple there. There's not very many Ojama monsters. We also have the Armed Dragon package. This is simply comprised of Armed Dragon Thunder level 3, Armed Dragon Thunder level 5, Thunder level 7, and Thunder level 10. All of them allow you to send a monster from hand to the grave, to send it from field, and special a level 5, 7, or 10 or lower respectively, aside from 10 obviously being a boss monster not able to summon anything else. 3 says that if it's sent to the grave to activate a dragon monster's effect, you can draw a card. 5 says if it's sent, you can add a level 5 or higher wind dragon from deck to hand. 7 says you can add any Armed Dragon card from your deck to your hand, and Thunder level 10 is the really big boss monster that will be a part of your end board that says if it's special summoned by the effect of an Armed Dragon monster, it gains the following effects based on its attack. If it has 1 attack, its name becomes Armed Dragon level 10. 10 or more, control of it cannot switch. 100 or more, it cannot be destroyed by battle. 1,000 or more, once per opponent's turn, quick effect, you can send a card from a hand to the graveyard, then target 1 other card in the field, destroy it, and if you do, this card gains 1,000 attack. And if it's sitting at a whopping 10,000 or more attack, it says once per turn, you can destroy all other cards on the field. So it's definitely a very bloated boss monster, but it does require a lot of payoff to actually get into, especially getting it to 10k. I believe they have a trap card that gets them like immediately to 10k, but it's like really bad. But yeah, essentially you're going to be climbing 3, 5, 7 all the way up to 10. This is going to be on your end board, and this is going to be in your graveyard, which is very important for your Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon plays, which we will get into in a second. But onto the A to Z engine, it's super simple, just one of each of X, Y, Z, V, and W. All of them are just either vanilla monsters in X and V's case, or union monsters that can just equip and give protection and stats, I believe. I think that's all it does, yeah. Very simple there, nothing too much to say. You're not really going to be doing too much with them aside from actually getting into the boss monsters. We also have 3 Rescue Cat, because Rescue Cat is actually a full combo on its own. It and Blue are both full combos if I recall correctly, with Rescue Cat being even better, because this gets you access to a bunch of Ojama cards in hand, because all you do is you summon the Rescue Cat, tribute, summon double blue, punch with the blue triggers engrave, and you get like 3 or 4 blues off of that, and it's crazy. Remember, blue can add another copy of blue, which is hilarious. But yeah, Rescue Cat is just a very welcome part of the deck. So on to the reasons why these archetypes are linked. So starting off with Ojama. Ojama is a quick play spell that says send an Ojama card from your hand or face up from your field to the graveyard. Add to your hand an Ojama monster with a different name and an Armed Dragon monster from your deck and or graveyard. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one of those monsters. It also says during your main phase, you can banish it from your graveyard, then target 3 of your banished Ojama monsters, shuffle them into the deck, and then draw 1 card. So this card is incredibly bloated, especially because it isn't a once per turn, but the main play that I've seen is that you get the Ojama Blue on board, you punch with the blue, using its effect to add Ojama and Ojama. Using Ojama, you are going to pitch the Ojama to add another Ojama Blue, and then also the Armed Dragon level 3, I believe. And then this will trigger the Ojama to add 1 each of green, yellow, and black. And you immediately normal summon the blue that you added off the Ojama, giving you an additional blue on board, which can then punch to add things like Ojama Assimilation, which we will get into in a second. But this is basically what starts off all your plays, because Ojama is just a really silly card overall. Ojama Assimilation is the one that connects it to the A to Z series. It says reveal a light machine fusion monster from your extra deck. Sorry, I'm stuttering. I'm like kind of rushing this out. I have an entire day while also going to locals this same day to get this pumped out. It's really stressful, but I'm trying, okay. It says reveal a light machine fusion monster from your extra deck and banish any number of Ojama monsters from your hand, face up field, and or graveyard. Special summon fusion materials with different names whose names are specifically listed on the card you revealed from your hand, deck, and or graveyard, equal to the number of monsters banished to activate this effect. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 3 of your banished Ojama monsters, shuffle them into the deck, then draw 1 card. So keep in mind, this can literally summon like 5 bodies for free. Like, this is kind of crazy. You reveal the XYZ Dragon Cannon, right? And then you activate Ojama Simulation, banish 3 of the things that you used. You can banish literally 1 of each of these because you used red to get all of them on board and into the graveyard to make the Appaloosa. You special 3 things from deck for free, and then that starts climbing up onto all your plays. You're also going to usually have another one, I believe, so that gets you the V and the W as well. Like I said, literally Blue or Rescue Cat is a 1-card combo into your full end board. And then it also has the same recycling as Ojama does by targeting your banished Ojama, shuffling him into the deck, and then drawing a card. So that can give you a little bit of recursion there if you really need it, which you probably won't. But for the final Ojama card, we have Ojamagic. Really simple. If sent from hand or field to the grave, you add 1 each of the original Ojamas from deck to hand. Obviously you're going to be sending it off of Ojama, and that gets it for free from your deck. Also, if you discard it for off of like Nightmare Phoenix or something, that also triggers it, so keep that in mind. We also have 1 copy of Armed Dragon Lightning. It gives Armed Dragons a little bit of protection from card effect by sending it to the grave instead, but the main purpose is the actual bulleted effects. So you can target a Armed Dragon monster you control, then activate 1 of these effects, being a hard once per turn. It gains attack equal to its level times 1,000, even if this card leaves the field. So that, you know, that's not the one you're usually going for, but that can get Armed Dragon Thunder level 10 permanently up another 1,000. You can just make this guy like super huge, which I think is really cool. But mainly you're going to be adding an Armed Dragon monster with an equal or lower level than it from your graveyard to your hand. Typically you can add something like Armed Dragon Thunder level 3. That means that Armed Dragon Thunder level 10 will be able to send it on the opponent's turn to get its pop effect, while also triggering the Armed Dragon Thunder level 3 to get a free draw, which can get you into more combo pieces for next turn. And also it's searchable off your Armed Dragon Thunder level 7, and so that's really most of what you're going to be doing there. And then finally, to wrap up the deck, because it is so heavily focused on going second with your opponent having things on board, you have 3 copies of Prod of Prosperity to access your Forbidden Droplets and your Dark Ruler No Mores. You need one of these in your hand to actually play 9 times out of 10, unless your opponent's playing like a really mediocre deck, so you better pray. So that is actually it for the main deck. Onto the extra deck, we have 1 of each of a VW Tiger Catapult, XYZ Dragon Cannon, and VW XYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon. All of these are the unions that you require to actually go into your boss monster. All of them also have some form of removal by popping or banishing cards or monsters, either by discarding or just doing it outright. They're all fine overall. Granted, they require a lot of ass pulling to actually bring out, especially if you're not using Ojama Simulation. So you're usually going to be avoiding their actual effects unless you really need to. Again, they are pretty nice removal overall if you have extra stuff in your hand, like off the Ojama Blues. But mainly they're all here so you can climb into the ultimate boss monster and win condition of the deck, Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon. So this is a level 10 light fusion machine monster with 3,500 attack and 3k defense. It requires VW XYZ Dragon Catapult Cannon and Armed Dragon level 7. It says it must first be special summoned from your extra deck. During a duel, you special summon both the above cards by banishing the above cards from your field and or graveyard. You do not use polymerization. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects with the same name as any banished card. Once per turn, during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish 1 card from your deck or extra deck face up, banish all cards your opponent controls and in their graveyard. This is one of the most severely bloated boss monsters I've ever seen in my entire life, and for good reason, considering the sheer amount of effort you have to put in to actually get this thing on board. Thankfully, while the materials are completely obnoxious, especially the fusion monster, it is a good summoning condition by being able to banish it from field or grave during just the turn you summon, or during a duel, sorry, that you summon them. So that makes it a little bit easier to actually get out at, like, overall. The lockout, by preventing your opponent from activating a banished card, or the effects of any cards with the same name as a banished card, is really strong, especially when you consider that if they've already used one of those cards, keep in mind, you're going to be banishing it from their graveyard. So like if they draw any more copies like Prosperity or something like that, or even like a Stratos-like card, they can't activate it anymore because it's now a banished card and they cannot activate anything with the same name. And then obviously, I don't think I have to explain why something that banishes all your opponent's cards and cards in their graveyard is really strong. Ignoring the fact that you could theoretically get a second copy of this card out because it's not a hard once per turn, this card is just absolutely insane. It is the main card that you go for and what you will get by all of your one card combos, and the only thing that really makes the deck actually shine together. On top of that, we just have some miscellaneous things. We have Ronin Raccoon. This is just really good for creating tokens and going for a little bit of punching. We have Sky Cavalry with the Downard Zeus package. All of these are level 2. Keep that in mind. Link Spider, which I'm assuming is good not only for the Ojamas and the X and V, but also because you can at least use the Nib token for something. IP is an alternative end board piece. All of the Nightmares promote more board breaking, especially if you can't make Appaloosa. Appaloosa, of course, is in here to protect from Nib and also just give you more of an end board. And also, Access Code is here to go for game if you can't go for game with your Arm Dragon Catapult Cannon and Arm Dragon Thunder level 10. I have nothing off to the side or anything for this deck. Granted, I barely know anything about this deck other than what Sperado has told me. I'm kind of like in the dark. I watched the replays, which I will be putting up on the screen in just a second, so you guys can see exactly what this deck does in action. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it, and I will see you right after the replays. Alright, so those were the replays that Sparado has provided. Again, be sure to check him out. I will provide full credit in the description. And it really shows us a lot of what the deck can do. So with that in mind, let's go over some of the strengths of the deck. So obviously you have incredibly easy to access and use one card combos with Ojama Blue and Rescue Cat, ignoring the need to break boards with things like Dark Ruler or Droplet. All you need is one of those two cards to actually get the full combo end board rolling, which is kind of crazy to me to think that we actually have one card ways into a card as absurd as Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon and more. Speaking of which, it's a very strong boss monster. Like, it removes every resource the opponent actively has other than their hand, on top of providing a massive floodgate that, depending on what it hits from the field in grave, can just shut off their entire deck, especially if their hand just consists of those cards. Due to the Armed Dragon engine, you can actually set up an alternative win condition with things like level 10 and Appaloosa and stuff like that on the end board, with the Ojamas actually easily being able to spam for things like Appaloosa in a pinch, even without going into Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon. However, with every strength comes at least one weakness. Despite the easy combos, without those combos, the win condition is an absolute ass pull to pull off. If you somehow cannot get Blue or Rescue Cat in your hand, or a way to get access to the stuff in the combo, I'm sorry, but you're probably fucked, because even though, yeah, you can set up an alternative win condition with the Armed Dragon engine, you are going to be in a very rough spot, especially because it's like you're going to be going second, right? You're blind going second, and so you're not going to be really able to do much right there. Also, if you're forced to go first by someone and you don't have any way to access those alternate win conditions in the Armed Dragons and Appaloosa and stuff, then you can't really do much because you can't use Ojama Blue. The vanilla Ojamas also make the deck a huge brickfest a lot of the time, or at least I would assume so, because they don't do anything on their own in hand without something like Ojama Red, which you only play the one copy of, so you're really relying on the 3 copies of Blue, Cat, and Prosperity to actually access your combos and not die to your own deck. And speaking of it, it just really needs to go second and draw board breakers in order to actually play it, given how the effects such as Blue actually work. So with that in mind, how would I make Armed Dragon Ojama ABC Catapult Cannon, Nutbuster Turbo actually better? I think more cards actually linking the archetypes together, or more specifically that link all 3, would be really good. Ojama Pajama, which I will pull up actually right now. Ojama Pajama. It's actually a pretty solid card, but it's hindered in the fact that it's a trap rather than a spell. So more cards along with the theme of it, but with quicker access, could help out the clunkier hands or playing through disruptions. I think easier access to VW XYZ would also be really, really important. Like, have you seen the summoning requirements for this thing? You need to contact fuse into one thing, contact fuse into another thing, and then contact fuse into the third thing. Like, that's kind of stupid. Like, I know the community has started to hate fuse from deck cards, like branded fusion and stuff like that, but I think bypassing the union and contact fusing mechanic for a fuse from deck like Neoscott would be pretty great. I don't know what restriction it would get, because like I was thinking something like make it only able to attack for the turn and nothing else can, but then it would lock out Blue, so I don't know what the restriction would be. I mean, honestly, even locking yourself into fusions could actually probably work. You just wouldn't get the Appaloosa, but just something that wouldn't make it a free, really big bungus, but just something that makes it easier to bring out would be great. Because even with Ojama Assimilation, it's definitely the hardest thing to access out of the materials for Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon. But if I'm to be honest, I can't think of anything else that I can really say. Like, again, you do have one card combos. Like, it's not like the biggest problem to actually get out if you do draw them. I think the only problems with the deck lie within the weaknesses that I have stated. Like, I think all of the engines, other than, the A to Z, because it is the clunkiest, I think the Ojama and the Armed Dragon stuff especially just work really well together. I think the end board that it makes is absurd, and unless your opponent hits you back with a board breaker, it's not likely to die anytime soon, which, I mean, even if they do have a board breaker, unless it's Droplet, this is a quick effect. Like, this card is kind of crazy. I think the deck overall is just super fun and really cool to see in action. I never thought I'd actually see this deck, like, do something. Like, it was always kind of like a meme deck in the background, but now with the Armed Dragon Thunders being able to easily pull out all of the Armed Dragon levels, you can get this stuff out so easily. But with that out of the way, I think that is all I actually have to say for this Sleeper Sunday episode. So I know it was a bit shorter. Again, I am trying to rush this out a little bit. I do not have very much time to actually get this recorded fully and edited before and after locals, before this goes up tomorrow. It's going to be a pain, but I hope even with that aside that you guys did enjoy it anyway. I know that this wasn't something that was on any of my polls. Again, I did reach out to Sparado personally so we could actually get this together. The next Sleeper Sunday might also not be a poll, but after that, it should be going back to the poll system as usual. I'm sorry for not having the poll. I know it was like something that was kind of like really important, but to be fair, the last two I'm pretty sure had to be scrapped anyway because I just could not make the decks that I chose work. But I am getting a lot more decks in my EDO Pro list, so that's going to be making a Sleeper Sunday a lot easier to actually do. I'm also willing to accept submissions if you guys want to come into my Twitter DMs and give me options for decks that I can put in the poll options that I could actually practice with. That would be awesome. I do have my DMs open. You don't need to follow me or anything. You can just go ahead and message me over on Twitter, even though you should follow me on Twitter anyway for news, channel updates, shitposts, and more. But yeah, with that out of the way, let me know your guys' thoughts on Ojama Arm Dragon ABC Nutbuster Turbo, because with that out of the way, that's going to do it for the video. If you liked it, please sure to leave a like, as helps put this video and the channel into YouTube recommended. And if you like this content and you want to see more like it, like the rest of my Sleeper Sunday series, we're starting to get a lot of these things out of here, and you guys are usually positively receiving these overall over time at least, so I think that is awesome. Then perhaps consider subscribing, because we're on our way to 2,000 subscribers. We're almost at 1,900, and we're trying to hit the 2,000 goal by the end of 2022. We have 3 months to go. Again, be sure to subscribe to Sperato. He will be in the description below. I might also put him in the pinned comment. But yeah, once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. This is Aurora, signing off.